Back to another episode of the Self-Development with Tactics podcast. Today we are once again gonna go through Design Your Work by Tiago Folter. Amazing book, really interesting book around life, somewhat life. It's actually pretty difficult to categorize it, to say whether it is this, that, or the other thing. But yeah, anyway. Let's see where it is. There it is. It should be already there. And there we go. Meta skills, macro laws, and the power of constraints, which is going to be the next one we are going through. This is all another way of saying the opposite of every great truth is also true, but with an asterisk, as long as you know thyself well enough to understand how it is true for you. It is these tools and maps I want to discuss in the rest of this point. They correspond to what I believe are the two pillars of self-knowledge when it comes to productivity: meta skills and macro laws. If meta learning is learning how to learn, then meta skills is in this context evolve learning how to work. Meta skills are the skills you need to leverage other skills. Which makes sense, if you do not know how to use your skills, how to maybe organize your skills as well, they are quite useless. If you're not able to use the tools that you're having on hand, even though you're having those tools, they're useless, not quite useful. Imagine the optionality in knowing that should the right opportunity come along, you could accomplish a month's worth of work in a week. And before you dismiss this as something for privileged single 20-somethings with no real responsibilities, take a look at Bethany Soul's similar experiment trading off childcare responsibilities with her partner for a week of dedicated focus. She saw a curiously similar 4.3 times increase in productivity as measured by code commitments and rated it equally satisfying. Each of these meta skills, defining one's own work, inducing particular states of mind, systems, thinking, habit formation, self, quantification, etc., could be the target of a variety of self-experiments, each one defining and splicing the skill differently depending on the needs of the moment. Sometimes they take the form of stronger requirements. I need this particular workspace to be productive, or I can't get work done without my coffee. The most consequential one shaped the future of one's career and life, painting possible choices in broad strokes. I'm more right-brained than left-brained, which are just some concepts that are in our head, even though there's a problem that I'm having with that. The whole problem that I'm having with it is honeycoating. When I'm saying I am not good at X, Y, or Z, and somebody else is like, okay, that's not truth, it's just what you're telling to yourself and whatnot, but I clearly know that I'm just not good at it. Period. I am just not good at this certain thing. Then this is just a fact. Period. Oh yeah. Of course, I'm also saying to people like, okay, that's not the truth. You're really good at X, Y, and Z. I really like what you're doing there and whenever. But on the other hand, one should also say when somebody is not good at something. There is no sensible reason why I should actually say that somebody is good at something even they are not, or even if they're not. Like, no, just not do that. I know of is Buster Branson's wonderful book of beliefs. He lists his meta-beliefs, perceptions, opinions, and predictions in the form of an annually updated open source GitHub repository. I gotta check that out then. A constraint that 1 minute helps you focus and the next minute blinds you to an opportunity. A constraint that in one situation saves you from risk, in another situation limits your possibilities. This is why the skill of constantly formulating, discarding, testing, and refining macro laws may be the most meta productivity skill of all. I'm borrowing the term macro law from John Holland's paper on emergence, in which he provides a fascinating historical example illustrating how difficult it is to formulate them. Likewise, self-discovery is more than simply accumulating accurate descriptive facts about oneself. The goal is to define the direction of further study by picking out a range of situations that occur frequently or evolve possibilities that lever the system onto new paths. It takes creativity, intuition, and deep self-knowledge to formulate new macro laws about ourselves that both fit our past and current identity and simultaneously guide our future in interesting directions. It is deep immersion in the messy details of experiments, condenting in hand-to-hand combat with the subtleties and ambiguities and exceptions unique to each one that produces the best breakthroughs, not the actual outcome. The paper's Statistical Interference for Individual Organism Research, Mixed Blessing or Curse, argues that the introduction of inferential statistics into the field of experimental psychology in the 1970s not only fails to produce breakthroughs as one might accept or expect, but actually held the field back. The explanation offered is that in the old days, researchers had to create experimental controls, finely tuned counterbalances to independent variables. This process, while tedious and time-consuming, produced great insights. The purpose is to work themselves out of a job by helping you internalize the dynamics that generate high performance, such that you no longer need external support. Perhaps not the best business model, but it's been remarkably successful. By this standard, who had any idea what 10,000 steps felt like before? There is a common thread uniting both meta skills and macro laws, the power of constraints. Meta skills are constraints on how you work. The better leverage your knowledge, intelligence, time, people, and other resources. Macro laws are constraints on what you work on, limiting your search space to a distraction. Most constraints on what you work on, limiting your search space to direction most likely to be fruitful. There's just one problem. How can something that is literally not there have any effect on the material world? How can constraints have power? Deacon makes a daring argument that helps explain how meta skills and macro laws work. He argues that emergent phenomena are not more than the sum of their parts. They are less than the sum of their parts. In other words, emergence is defined by what is not there, by constraints. This could explain why reductionist analysis don't work in explaining consciousness or any other emergent phenomenon. What doesn't exist has no parts. Deconstruct the experience of mind into its components and you dissolve the very relationship that give rise to it, and are left with nothing. Nothing magical or mysterious is added to the threads to make it a rock, yet you could individually replace each thread and still have the same rock. It is the connection geometry of the system, the way that constraints interact at different levels that produce the emergent rock. This geometry has great causal power, but is not something material. Is there any better definition of productivity? We learn meta skills to perform higher leverage work, but the best source of leveraging is creating new constraints, new macro laws. These macro laws channel our energy more efficiently, giving us the surplus resources to acquire yet more skills. Improving one's productivity is not a self-organizing process, but a self-simplifying one. You would also like notes on X, Y, and Z. The CIO's Guides to Breakthrough Portfolio Project Management by Michael Hanman. The War of... let's actually check out this GitHub thing that he mentioned before. And I don't know if you can see that, but my left brow is it called tweaking? I think it is called tweaking, which is not a good thing, by the way, which is most often due to stress, due to things going on, due to things that you just do not want to have, basically. But, yeah. No repeats. Buster Benson's wonderful book. Cognitive biases. BusterBenson.com is an entrepreneur and former product leader at Amazon. Interesting book, blog, codex. A cheat sheet to help you remember 200 plus biases via 3 conundrums. Information. There's too much information to process and we have limited attention to give, so we filter lots of things out. Noise becomes signal. The downside, we don't see everything. Some of the information we filter out is actually useful and important, or would be actual useful and important. Why are we yelling? The art of productive disagreement. Is it a codex? Maybe let's just see what the codex is all about. What is this document? This is a public living dying document that I created as an experiment one Sunday in April of 2012 and has been revised at least yearly ever since. Brief timely of that history here, maintaining, it has become one of the most treasured activities in my life. It is a way for me to remember who I am, catch inconsistencies in how I respond to different events in the world, react to current events from a position of how I believe the world is, should be, and will become. I've updated it at least once a year since 2012, and challenges are tracked. Rather than attempting to avoid all errors in this doc, I am attempting to be as specific as possible and to quickly correct errors when they become apparent. What to do the emoji symbol mean? A belief about information, a belief about personal values, a belief with high confidence. Beliefs by topics, aliens. I see. Aliens. Artificial intelligence. Machines will eventually become more intelligent than humans are today. High confidence and a belief of information. Yeah, that's nice. Machines will make humans more intelligent than we are today. Cognitive biases. Every single person, including myself, has many implicit associations that leads to bias that they can't fully eradicate in themselves. It is more effective to accept that fact and account for it by being transparent about it than to try to hide it. There's actually more context to it. This belief triggers some anxiety when challenged. We are susceptible to many cognitive biases and logical fallacies because our brains require them to get any thinking done within our constraints of time and energy. You can actually see this. Yes, you can. The sensation of consciousness is real, but beyond that is tough to say. Free will exists within constraints in the same way a goldfish has freedom and autonomy within its fishbowl. And so on and so forth. There's also a blog. So let's see what this blog is about. So maybe it is good. Blogging. What is blogging in 2020? Oh, look, a book. How to write a book very slowly. 43 all in and with the flow. I've been doing a review of my life every year around my birthday. You can last year's reflection about digging deeper and the other 12. The primary formative event of my last year was changing careers and re-entering the world of independent creator living. Very interesting. Amazon, Twitter, Slack, Patreon, Rickshaw. But what does this green mean? I don't know. Pocket buys as well. Anyway, maybe I'm gonna feature this site later or in some other episode again. But up until then, I wish you best and hopefully see you soon. So, bye bye.